pot au feu is a French beef stew. According to the chef Raymond Blanc, pot au feu is the quintessence of French family cuisine. It is the most celebrated dish in France. It honors the tables of the rich and poor alike. Origin and history. It is difficult to know when the name pot au feu first appeared and when its meaning changed to describe the dish instead of the pot in which it is cooked. While pot was used to describe the rounded pot to cook on the fire at least since the 11th century, there seems to be no written trace of pot au feu until 1673. In 1600, King Henry IV of France declared, "I want no peasant in my kingdom to be so poor that he cannot have a pool or pot on Sundays." Pool or pot literally means chicken in the pot, and the so-called traditional recipe resembles the one of pot au feu. However, peasants' food was mainly based on bread, root vegetables, in-season vegetables and soup. They rarely ate meat except salted pork, hog grease, bacon, or other meat for religious celebrations. For people in town, it was easier to buy inexpensive pieces of meat, which needed long cooking. The method of cooking all food together and for extended periods of time gave what was called a pot pourri in French and imported into English in the early 17th century. The relation between pot pourri and pot au feu was attested in 1829 in the etymologic dictionary of the French language, pot pourri. The name our fathers gave to the pot au feu. Main ingredients: the cuts of beef and the vegetables involved vary, but a typical pot au feu contains inexpensive cuts of beef that require cooking for long periods. Some kind of cartilaginous meat, such as oxtail and marrowbone. Vegetables, mainly root vegetables like carrots, turnips, celery, onions but also white cabbage and leeks. Spices, bouquet garni, salt, black pepper and cloves. Cooking cartilaginous meat in the stew will result in gelatin being dissolved into the broth. If the stew is allowed to cool, the broth may turn into a jelly, resulting in an interesting texture. Allowing the stew to cool also allows the removal of excess fat, which floats on the surface and solidifies. In order to give the broth a slightly smoked taste and its typical brown color, onions are cut in half then charred in a frying pan protected by aluminum foil until the onion's surface is completely black. The cloves are driven into the onions so that both onions and cloves can be removed easily before serving. Serving. Traditionally, the broth is served first with a bit of nutmeg and the marrow spread on toasted bread. Then the meat and the vegetables are served with coarse salt and strong Dijon mustard, horseradish sauce, and sometimes also with gherkins pickled in vinegar. Pot au feu broth may also be used as a soup, as a base for sauces, or for cooking vegetables or pasta. Ready-to-use concentrated cubes are available to make what purports to be pot au feu broth when water is added. Variants. Many countries have similar dishes with local ingredients. Even within France, ingredients may differ from one region to another and with the season. See also. References